Welcome everyone to my Blood Death Knight guide, quick guide, something of that sort. Now, while we're going through this guide, I'm expecting you guys kind of two things. One is that you know at least something about Death Knight, right? Blood Death Knight. You know what Vampiric Blood is, you know what Dancing Rune Weapon is, that kind of stuff, right? Secondly, I only do Mythic Plus. I don't raid, I just pug. So what that means is that I will build my character around that. I'm not getting externals from anyone, or at least telling them that I need it. I'm just going to assume that I'm not going to get it, right? We're going to assume those things because you have other people like Yoda who have made a perfect guide. You know, he's one of the top players, but also when you look at it, you have to take it with a little bit of salt, not because he's wrong, but because he's playing at such a high level with other players who know the game just as well as he does, that they all will utilize each other's abilities and yada, yada, yada. Of course, in a pug setting, you're most likely not going to get that. So without further ado, let's get on with this guide. So for talents, we're only going to be talking about Deathbringer. I do not play Saylane. I don't know enough of the rotation or what you want to do for Saylane, so we're going to be ignoring it entirely. We are going to just be talking about Deathbringer. We're going to start off with the blood side of the tree. Like I said, I'm not going to explain what Blood Boil does or Morrowind. We're hoping that you have a general knowledge of Blood Decay, but this is usually what you want to be running. There's very few options to choose from, and I'm going to tell you them. So first off, this talent here that I take in Heartbreaker, I personally like it to generate more runic power to then heal. In lower Mythic Plus, you could go for Hemostasis because of Blood Boil increases the damage and healing done by your next Death Strike by 8%, stacking up to 5 times. But usually in higher keys, you just get hit so hard, you need the extra global and the more runic power to heal and to generate the runic power. Also in higher keys, I'm currently getting into 17s or trying to. Usually people play probably 18 plus if you're doing Blood Death Knight stuff. You're going to take Rune Tap because of just the flat out damage reduction sometimes that you just need it. That's on a quick recharge time. That's pretty much the only three that you'll be able to choose from. I would, again, take not only a grain of salt with what I say, you know, obviously think for yourself, but also when you look at high blood, like high Mythic Plus Blood Death Knights, sometimes you'll see some weird builds. And again, like some of them will take Gorefiend's Grasp. You have to remember, again, they're with a team. They are, you know, they're building around Gorefiend's Grasp and doing certain things and strategies. I personally am a pug. I just pug, and yeah, I'm just basing it on that alone. So please take everything with a grain of salt whenever you look at something. And base your decisions on your needs. But usually sometimes people do take Blooded Blade. You could take Consumption out, put in Blooded Blade. It's just a DPS increase, and it's about a 50% uptime, I think it is. Other than that, you're going to be choosing everything in this tree. You need Sanguine Ground. You need the Bone Storm and the Shatterbone. You need Purgatory. Some people don't like Umbilicus. I like it. You could maybe move that to somewhere else, but this is very, very good. And you definitely need Red Thirst. It's just a whole bunch of things, right? This is pretty much a go-to build for blood, in my opinion. For Deathbringer, there really is no choice in any of these, unless you take Soul Reaper here and you'll take Reaper Souls. Once you get the set bonus, you will take Reaper's Onslaught. Dark Talons kind of sucks. And that's pretty much it. You always get to choose Rune Carved Plates, all the stuff. You're going to choose everything here. There's really no debate over it for Asbringer. For the Death Knight side, we are going to look at it from top, middle, and bottom. So first thing from the top, I use 2 points here in Enfeeble to get Death's Reach, one here and then one here in Death's Reach. The 10-yard Rage is invaluable to me, and I really enjoy it, and I will probably always be taking it. Now, the reason I say I use 2 points here is because technically you can get rid of this. You get rid of both of these and just put 1 point here because you need these, and then you have another point to spend somewhere that you may want. So you could think about that, again, your needs and what you're doing with your comp or whatever the case, right? I also choose March of Darkness. We need speed as Death Knight. I like that. Now, you will probably never take Permafrost in Season 3 of The War Within. You're always going to choose Cold Thirst. So the middle of the tree right here, there's a few options. So here you're going to take all of these because you're just going to. This is the triangle of what we can do. You're always going to want Anti-Magic Zone and low M+. People won't stand at it. You could take it away for low M+, but I would recommend keeping with it so you know and get used to that having the ability. I do choose Wraithwalk again, removing all root effects and increasing your movement speed. This is very good. We need movement speed, so that's why I grab it. Now, again, you could switch it out for Asphyxiate. Like I said, you could take out March of Darkness and put in Asphyxiate for more CC. You could take out something and put it for Blood Scent. There's options here that you could choose from and play around. Now, we do have Soul Reaper Yoda recommends playing this because you want to maximize your DPS, and while that's true, again, well, personally, very personally, I hate Soul Reaper ever since it was came into Cataclysm. I hate this fucking thing, and I will never use it. But again, if you want to maximize your damage, if you're going high, something of that nature, then you could try to use it and see how it works out. But if you do take Soul Reaper, then you're going to take this Reaper of Souls. But yeah, I just refuse to take it in my opinion. But again, whatever your goal is, you could try it out. And for the bottom, there really is no difference from anyone's bottom. Haha. Everything here is just not mandatory, but pretty much from Rune Protection to Insidious Chill, Rune Master, Null Magic. Some people do Subduing Grasp. I do not. If you were, for some reason, for your comp, or you as a Death Knight wanted to run Gorfine's Grasp first, I don't know how you would get it because you need all these things. But let's assume that you do, then Subduing Grasp would be useful. But since we don't have Clappy Hands or Gorfine's Grasp, I feel like the value of it is very diminished, and I don't bother getting it. I'd rather use the point somewhere else. And that's pretty much my default talent, and I almost never switch it out now. Maybe, actually, I wouldn't even switch out Anti-Magic Zone. Could be a difference with, like I said, at least high M+. If the dungeon doesn't have a lot of magic damage, you don't need it, you can go for Blood Scent. Or if your comp has enough CDs and they don't need it somehow, I mean, you can just do whatever you want, pretty much. But yeah, those are my talents, and let's get on to, I guess, the stats. So the stats on Blood Death Knight, Deathbringer, is very simple. It's Mastery, Verse, and then Haste. Mastery, Blood Shield, again, you can read it for yourself. We want chunky blood shields. It's going to help us be stable. Versatility is a flat damage and healing increase along with a decreased damage taken. It has always been a Blood Death Knight's best stat so far. It's just really good. And 30 is the soft cap. I'm just a little bit behind, but I don't have any buffs. Usually I use food or flask. And then haste, someone like Yoda would not recommend haste. There's going to be some haste on some stuff, just like with crit. I like enough haste to make the, everything flow a little bit better. You do get 10% haste from Bone Shield, so you'll add that on there as well. But this is enough haste. You just have to be careful though with your Blood Boil. It's a 6.5 second recharge, and if you use a lot of it, you won't have a Blood Boil to gain aggro, though of course we do have Reaper's Mark in the 2-set bonus. So there is that to compensate, but still just be wary. For some reason, Wowhead says for you to have crit. I don't know why. Crit is a very good offensive stat, but in terms of parry, there's a lot of things you can and cannot parry. Versatility is just better because of our healing and damage just taken reduction, and things like as Dawnbreaker, the Tainted Slash cannot be parried, so parry is completely useless on that, while Verse is just an all-around, like think of Verse as 100% working and crit working 50% of the time. I would choose the 100% over the 50, right? So that's kind of how I view it. Now, crit, of course, is better offensively, but again, sim your character, see what you want, and all of that. Those are pretty much the stats. Well, while you are gearing up, just equip whatever. And then once you start getting into the hero track, like let's say you have all hero track, then you can farm out specific pieces that you want for your stats. So now we're going to talk about gear real quick, and in general is that mainly all of them you want some kind of verse mask. You want to get some kind of these stats pretty much ish, right? But you can decide on what you want. So usually, like, again, you'll have some crit, haste, whatever. There's some crit here. It's just, like I said, making sure your stats are well and going for pieces that are going to give you the stats that you want. And again, high verse, high mass. For like embellishments, I have two. I have this with the buff. I have two of them. Dusk Thread Lining, versatility increased by 1500 when you're above 80% health. We want that. I have Verse Mass on that and Verse Mass on the boots. Note, I don't raid, so I won't have access to the boots. Also, I would have put it on the belt in case maybe one day I want to raid, but I didn't get any upgrade for my boots, so I had to craft one. So this is why I've crafted the boots. If you're like, wow, that's stupid, well, that's the reason why. Or trinkets. Now this is where some people, like I said, it depends on what you want. I go defensively. Ringing Ritual Mud is so good. It's just a big ass shield, right? And it has some cooldown reduction on the shield. It just is good for going into a pack or start gathering, or even not even that. Let's say you're just out in the, you're just thinking up in the air and you're not paying attention to something, right? Bam, Ringing Mud saves you a couple globals and you can then get yourself right on track. That's why I like Ringing Mud. It's just really, really good. For the other trinket, I'm currently just dicking around with Codex of the First Technique. The effect is ass. It's it's not good at all. It's actually like, if there was like a Z tier, that would be it. But the 60 stamina is really nice. I will admit the 60,000 stamina is really nice. Now, you could go with the Tome of the Light's Devotion if you want to manage it. It gives you crit and armor. You can swap between the two, you know, shifting through the chapters. I'm not going to go into a whole big thing. It's a good trinket. I would personally like something more passive like this. So you could try to do Soleil's technique or whatever it is. You could try to Pacemaker if you just want some crit. Like at this point, right, we have a bit of like there's nothing much we can do, quote unquote. So we could probably get Pacemaker and get extra crit, right? There's no harm in it now. I'm not, you know, so you could do something like that. Those are the three that I would stick around with: Tome, Soleil's, or Pacemaker. Or you could go Scabroot to a little bit more haste and then damage. It's up to you to decide what you want. But I'm just, to me, it's always Ringing Mud, and then this is whatever you want to try, stick around with. It's basically it, right? For enchants, I mean, Leeching Fangs for the cloak, First Line Radiance for the chest, the Leech for the bracers. We have Rune of the Fallen Crusader because we're Death Knight. The boots is Defender's March. The legs are the strength, 930 strength and 825 stam. And then for the rings, a lot of high-end people don't do the cursed mastery or cursed versatility. It being cursed mean that it saps like a little bit of mastery or something like that. I don't really care. I'm just trying to get to my current stats. So like I said, I just have one verse and I've gemmed for verse. And then I have this one for Cursed Mastery because I was a little bit over on my mastery, my verse. Again, a lot of high-end people will do the different colored gems with the benefit of 0.20, whatever it is, crit gem. I forget what it's called. I don't care about that. I truly don't. I just, again, gem for verse and call it a day. We will talk about real quick, I forgot, what kind of food you want. Again, it will depend. So Beladar's Bounty is super cheap on the auction house. It gives you 470 of your highest stats, so that gives me verse. Be wary of that. Maybe if you want like a mastery food, your master's too low, you can go search for a mastery food, but overall Beladar's Bounty works for me. And then I use a verse flask. Again, what I could do actually right here is I'll show you guys real quick. I'm going to eat, and you can see I'm just below my cap of 30, even though it says 30. This is called True Stat Add-on. Go get it. I'm going to get my food, and then we're going to go over. You can see now I have a penalty. Now you could still continue to go over and get value. It just depends on how you feel. So usually I use a verse flask. You could use a mastery one and get a shit ton of mastery and bump that up. So you could do that, or you could do the verse one, whatever it is. One of those two should be fine. And then I always go with the mana oil. I always buy the silver one because the gold one's way too damn expensive for this late in the season and all that stuff. That's kind of pretty much any kind of consumables that you would want to use on a regular basis in your dungeons. So now we're going to talk about the opener for a Blood Death Knight and how to start a pact. Blood Death Knights are basically really weak at the beginning of the pack of gathering because you're not generating runic power because you need runic power to heal, right? And also we don't have bone shields, but we can generate that. So the main purpose of Blood Death Knight in the class itself is to generate bone shields, Death Strike to heal, get Dancing Rune Weapon off as a defensive and an offensive weapon. Use Reaper's Mark, again, a defensive because it generates bone shields, but also it does damage, it's offensive. And then we want to use Bone Storm and Tombstone a little bit later in the pull, like after the beginning, a little bit after, to get Dancing Rune Weapon off cooldown. Because when a Bone Shield is consumed, Dancing Rune Weapon, it comes off cooldown faster. So we're going to look at myself, or try to, a Halls of Atonement 16 and look at the beginning pull and maybe a little bit after. And see what I'm doing to survive. Now, these guys I met while doing a 17 Gambit, and then we decided to do this one together. We were in Discord, but we weren't really calling anything. You could listen to it. I didn't have my voice, but we're going to, again, Death Grip here. Immediately, Dancing Rune Weapon to get the Bone Shield. We're going to Blood Boil. And then we're going to do a little shimmy here where I'm kind of facing the other way, but trying to look back, and I do a Reaper's Mark to get the two sights. And then I'm going to Death's Advance even further, or Wraith Walk. Here I'm going to Ringing Mud. That's what I did. What I do here, did I just hit something? think I may have Heart Striked or whatever. I'm going to Blood Boil. I'm going to probably taunt this. Use a Scythe. Yeah, we did use a taunt. We put down Death and Decay. We get more healing and damage. We do have to be careful here, though. This is the one thing that where Blood Death Knights will splat, kind of like Vengeance Demon Hunters, is where you're trying to gather everything and you're kind of ignoring. I did heal, by the way, a little bit here. I wonder if I can show that. I did heal. Because, see, I did generate a little bit of runic power by doing those things. And then you could see probably about here is where I'm going to heal myself. But usually when you're trying to gather and gain aggro, you're not generating runic power, and that's when you kind of splat. And that's why the cloak along with ringing mud really do help with like AFK moments in my brain, at least for me anyways, right? So now I'm trying to get aggro because everyone's doing everything. I have to pay attention to the Loyal Beast cast. I'm going to heal. We're going to generate. We're going to pop Vampiric Blood. We're in our Death and Decay. We have 12 bone. This is the perfect time, obviously, to be Heart Striking and getting Blood Shield up and just healing. And then right about after this, I'm going to place down this AMZ. We're going to probably place down Blood Boil, place down a new Death and Decay. I'm going to start generating, and then now is probably around the time as, yes, this is where I use my Bone Storm. It just depends on when you want to use it. I don't recommend using it immediately because you want the bone shields because they do give you some HP. But when you're a little bit just after, more comfortable in the pull, you establish threat, you establish stuff. I love how I didn't establish threat on that one fucking guy over there. But that's when you want to use it. Now you can also, because Bone Shield will give you back, Bone Storm will give you some Bone Shields back. You could pair... because my Reaper's Mark is coming off, you could use a Reaper's Mark here and then Death and Decay and then Tombstone, and then you can, because Tombstone just takes away the Bone Shield and gives you some shitty shield, you could then use the Reaper's Mark Scythe to gain back your Bone Shield. Trying to Death Grip that guy. Now, the one thing that kind of does suck, so you kind of see how this is playing, is that we have to use Death Strike as a offensive weapon too. You can't really hold on to it. Just making sure, managing your runic power and getting some blood shield up when you know a big hit could come. All this kind of stuff. I'm not sure why I'm not using my Death and Decay. We did use Dancing Rune Weapon here. The one thing that I'm really bad at, like here are my own personal problems with playing Blood Death Knight that I just fuck up all the time on, is I use Bone Storm and Tombstone, sometimes out of D&D, and sometimes I'm not paying attention to Dancing Rune Weapon, so I get no benefit from them whatsoever, so please be careful of that and try to pay attention to it, unlike me. And the other one was like AFK braining while gathering, and then I just splat, so there's that one too. Another thing though that, so yeah, this is basically it, right? The main thing though that I think a lot of people have a problem with is that, okay, my Dancing Rune Weapon is down. What am I going to do next? What do I do? So, okay, so now we have, again, we have some runes coming up. We have 3 runes. We have some runic power for a Death Strike. We're going to come in here. Like I said, this is now about knowledge, about what kind of pull I want to do. What are the mobs? What are they going to do? Okay, so I dropped a Death and Decay. I Blood Boil, I have hard aggro on them. Now I'm going to pull this Hound Master, and the hounds will come to me. So I use Reaper's Mark because I already pulled. So I already pulled this. I taunted it by pulling. Now I'm going to Reaper's Mark it. It's going to give me my Scythe. I'm probably going to use a Scythe. Going to most likely, I think, knowing me, I'm going to run into this. It caught some of the Scythe. We're going to Blood Boil. You know, so we Blood Boiled, we Scythe, we have a whole bunch of runic power that we should be spending on Death Strike. You know, you could see, again, I'm actually going to watch this again here. Again, Blood Boil, the Death and Decay, the Grip, the Reaper's Mark, where we kind of timed it a little bit here. Again, the Scythe coming out, that one guy still didn't aggro. I think I pulled that, Blood Boil. I interrupted him, and then we're going to Scythe again. But you could see kind of the sequence of just gathering things, trying to get the hard aggro. We have a whole bunch of runic power. We have all of our runes. This is a pretty safe pull, well, for me anyways. But we have to make sure that we're in our death and decay, we're death striking, we're blood boiling, all that stuff, getting all that crap, and also interrupting as well. I did use the Bone Storm. I do have some scythes. Again, we're just generating and spending, generating and spending. I have been forgetting my tombstone. I should have tombstone there. Yeah. So now you got the gist, right, of the opener. What do we want to do? You just got to play. You just got to play the game. You have to figure out what works and what doesn't for you, how you like it, all that kind of stuff, and you will learn over time, like, I need to vamp blood here, I should vamp blood more, or maybe, you know, kind of thing. There's also some neat things too. Death's Advance, you can negate a lot of things, pushbacks, like in the last boss in Arakara. What else can you do? The Icebound Fortitude, you can get rid of a lot of stuns as well. So just keep all that in mind. But yeah. So in this portion of the video, we're going to talk just a little here and there things. Mainly I want to talk about weak auras. Weak auras are leaving in midnight. So I would suggest maybe attempting to use the Blizzard UI, which I've been doing. They're in options, gameplay enhancement, advanced UI. This is where you get these. I think they're fine. I would like to customize them in the sense that making maybe these a little bit bigger. Maybe I can do that in edit. But, you know, I have my bone shield here. There's some things that like in the buffs here you could place, you could remove, you could add these ones. It's all right. Weak auras is better, but you might as well get used to it now. So see, like I said, this could help with your bone shield, or if you want to know if you're in your death and decay still, you know, these are things that you want available to you. This is your cooldown manager over here. I don't use it. I did, but then I never looked to it because I naturally trained myself after 17 years of being an idiot to look down all the way over here for my you know, all my shit. So again, everyone does their own thing. These are just some tips or some suggestions. You can utilize this, you can move these up, you can do whatever the fuck you want, you know, but usually this is what I use. The one thing I do use weak auras for is I have 2 bone shields. They're kind of off right here in this little corner all the way at the bottom. They're not meant for viewing. They create an audio. So if it's less than 5 here of a bone shield, because we need 5 or more for the talent, you get the reduction of the runic power. Like I think it's here it is. While you have at least 5 bone shield charges, the constant death strike is reduced by 5. Additionally, your runic power is increased by 10 or whatever. So I just have this, and it just makes a noise. So basically what you would do is go and trigger 1 aura player buff. You find it, the name, stack count less than 5. Then you go to condition, stack less than 5, sound, play. And I have this little wood thing. So if you ever hear, that's, you know, it's just letting me know one of the 2 things. And then this other one is basically if I have 10 seconds or less remaining duration. This one is stacks. Remaining duration. So that's the only thing I'm going to miss. Hopefully they add that into then, you know, Blizzard adds that to their new UI. If not, that's going to suck ass, but overall it should be fine. It's not too difficult. That's the only thing that I have. I will link these 2 weak auras in the description. You could see here, this is the Death Strike. If you watched the previous video, what that green bar was on my health, you can go back and take a look at it. It is the Death Strike prediction to see how much healing I'm going to do based on how much damage I was taking. Very handy. Unfortunately, this will go away, and that sucks ass. Maybe there will be an add-on that does that. Who knows? I don't think so. And then we have the red shield here. I always found it hard to track your blood shield and how much is really there. And so this is where you can utilize your blood shield. Like I said, you'll be death striking a lot. And sometimes before big hits, you can death strike to get a blood shield to help cushion the big blow kind of thing. So this is where I have it right above here to see how much blood shield that I have. I'll link the weak auras below the link to them, and how you import them is you just go to import. You know, you copy the string, import them here, and then there you go. Good old shit. For macros, I don't have many. We can take a look at them here. We have the Raise Dead macro. It's just a mouse over target, so you can mouse over the actual dead player here on the ground or on your frames. Just click, for me, it's Shift F, and if you have 30 runic power, you don't have to actually click on it. You can just hover over it, and it will cast the spell, will revive them. Same thing for this one, Interrupt. You can mouse over and use Mind Freeze, so you don't have to actually click on the target. and just use it to interrupt them. I liked this at first, but then I didn't like it because I was fucking up on it a lot more than I originally was, and so I got rid of it. But if you wanted it, this is it. And then for Death and Decay, I have it cast on target as well, actually cast on cursor, so you can do, you know, you don't see the reticle at all. Obviously, if you've been playing Blood Death Knight for a while, you can kind of tell how far away your Death and Decay is going to be. There is one where you could like cast on self if that's something you want, but I don't know if you could just put self there, or you would have to Google it. But this one's probably the most handy one. Yeah, that's kind of it really. I think I tried to do a Death Grip mouse over, didn't really like that one as well. This is my really lame Dancing Rune Weapon with Raised Dead. It's not that great because when you click on, let's say for me, Shift 3, it will actually raise dead first before Dancing Rune Weapon. So that could be a problem. So maybe not do what I did, but I just leave it because I'm a fucking idiot. For Plater, I will link it. I stole Metro's Plater profile. I'll link it to it in below. You download Plater, go to Profiles, Import, copy the string here, and then click OK, and then you'll have the Plater profile. I just use his. You could obviously look on the WeakOr's website and other places to find a profile that suits you the best. I like Metro's. It's fine enough for me. All that jazz. What else do we need here that I could recommend to you? I guess there's only one other thing for if you're looking to tank. But anyways, guys, I want to thank everyone for the video, for joining me and stuff. Nothing is perfect about the video in explaining. I'm not the most perfect Death Knight or the best Death Knight at all. But hopefully for someone out there that it could give a more refreshing take or some tips or something that I've shown that was way more helpful. But yeah, I want to thank everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.